Evan, one thing we like to do on these shows is sort of kind of lightning round where we ask a lot of like standard questions to leaders, kind of get different perspectives. So to start off, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Wear a condom. That's a really good one. But if we're going to limit to the scope of business, it's hire slow, fire fast. I can't remember who said that. It actually might have been Zuckerberg, but it's, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Like, man, if you live by that credo, you are going to make a lot less mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times you can recognize right away when someone's not a good fit, the problem is a lot of people do wait, it's easier to find the right person than change the wrong one, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like wearing, you wear a high heel on a mountain goat hike or a mountain goat hunt in Alaska. That is fucking going to be a really horrible experience. Yeah. When you hire the wrong person, it could be exactly like that. I don't know what wearing high heels feels like, which sounds like I might, but I'm just imagining the worst case scenario, like some stilettos as I'm like trying to hunt a mountain goat in Kodiak.
It's just not going to work. Yeah.
It's just going to suck so bad.
Yeah.
That you're going to be miserable for so long. So don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, just take them off, put on a fucking boot and go hunt. Right. Yeah. It's like, God, don't wear a stiletto on a goat hunt. It's a really bad fit.
If you could go back 20 years and tell yourself something, what would it be? I mean, obviously, other than like, bet on the Patriots over the Falcons or what, invest in Tesla early. Yeah.
No, I'm less materialistically driven than I'm more about the process. So to be honest with you, I could have told myself to invest in Tesla and it wouldn't have fucking mattered. I spent too much time in war zones, and when I say that, it's not that I didn't invest the time appropriately, but I spent my 20s and early 30s kicking around in Iraq and Afghanistan. If I have one regret, I would have at least maybe chopped some of that time down and spent more time in the mountains. I'm a true believer in being isolated and remote and out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And honestly, some of those skills I wish I would have cultivated earlier and done more time, really invested more time in those types of activities, because now I'm trying to catch up and I'm 43, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm going on a grizzly bear hunt next year and I'm like, trying to be as fit as I can, but it would have been a different story for me, like doing like extended expeditions in like British Columbia or something like that.
Yeah.
But now I have 2 kids and a business. So, chop out 90 days of your life to go do something so incredibly epic is going to be so difficult.
Yeah.
And past the point of no return.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I look at some of those guys that have done some epic shit like that. And I'm like, I'm a little bit envious. So I would spend more time in the backcountry for sure.
What do you do, especially as a leader and as your business is scaled up and there's new obstacles? What do you do when fear and anxiety start to creep in? How do you keep that in check?
I don't know what you mean. I don't have fears.
Well, that's cool.
I'm just messing.
I was going to say, good for you, man. I fear getting invited to a goat hunt and having to wear stilettos.
Yeah. Man, fear and anxiety are just part of life, dude. Like, honestly, I've dealt with fear my entire adult life in one way or another, whether it's like going to selection processes and trying to make it, to become a Green Beret, or going to the CIA, or like rolling forward in the invasion of a country, or rolling out of a gate every day and, thin-skinned vehicles trying to like sneak around and not get blown up. Fear is just, I think it's just inherently part of my DNA at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly good at compartmentalizing emotion because of my past. So, fear and anxiety, when I get these things, what I do is I kind of recognize what this is. And with fear, for instance, I try to logically work my way through what the fuck is going on, right?
Yeah.
Why am I fearing this? And then I look at it a lot like anything that I've done in my life, which is like, I tell myself, stop being a fucking pussy and address it, because you're going to be much bigger person for just addressing it head on. Anxiety in a combination of ways. And I think, my company provides one layer of discomfort, a sense of like 260 people. When you think about the mortgages and payroll, and you think about all the different aspects of the company, it gets really complex really fast.
Yeah.
And you can start to become anxious. But I think more along the lines, like I'm always erring on the side of those things as far as take care of the people, right? Be mission first. And if you're mission first and you're taking care of your people, they will take care of you.
Yeah.
So that starts to alleviate anxiety and fear, because I know at the end of the day, I'm making good, sound decisions for the people in the company and my family first.
Yeah.
And what I say is good leaders eat last. And that's the way that it works, right? It's the military beat it into me. I take care of my family and my company before I start to take care of me. And they take care of me. But that's really what happens.
Yeah.
Like when I come in here, people like high five and yell out, "Hey, what's up, man?" And when I go home, my kids run through the door and they're super excited to see me. My wife, hit or miss, depending, right, on how long of a day she's had. But, you take care of your people, they'll take care of you. And when you fear something, chances are you need to dig deeper and invest more time into your people and your family versus investing less time in yourself. And that's how I alleviate it. If I'm fearful or I start getting any level of anxiety, let's say it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, my course of action typically works like this. I'll logically work my way through it, shut my laptop, and I'll go home and I'll play with my kids. It's all gone.
Yeah.
Just disappears.
That's good. I mean, and it helps keep perspective too, like I feel like that a lot of times, fear is just, you get so caught up in a problem right in front of your face that you forget like the big picture, like, hey man, been through a lot, we'll get through a lot. Evan, what's one thing you think people should do every single day that would benefit them?
Every single day, it's time triage. So, I do this, I've done this almost every day that I've had this business in the last, 5 years, is you have to look at all of your activities. So like I take a lot of notes, and that's just one layer, but really it's not the notes. It's more of a checklist as to what am I doing throughout my day? What is returning my highest ROI? So if you're looking at your business and you're saying, okay, what's my time worth and how is my time being represented within the business? You might say, well, I need to represent my time for a high ROI against my gross revenue. Okay. Well, then you have to go to work trying to figure out what time you can spend on your gross revenue that really moves the needle. And then you start chopping out your white noise.
Yeah.
I call it time triage. It's the same thing with my family. So I don't typically, I'm not a couch person. Like I don't lay on the couch. I don't lay in bed. I go to bed to sleep. If I'm working, I'm at a desk. If I'm not working, my laptop's shut, my phone's somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm engaged and I'm plugged in. I'm playing with my kids. If I'm working, I'm plugged in and I'm working. You have to be very disciplined when it comes to your time. And the only way to do that is you have to chop away your dead minutes. You have to chop them away. So if I don't know what this is like, so I'm a little bit disconnected, but if you're wasting a lot of time, on Netflix specials or listening to fucking podcasts or whatever you're doing, if you don't chop that dead wood and start reinvesting your precious minutes of time that you really move the needle against what your goals are, you're going to be stretched so thin, it will be very difficult for you to move the needle in your business or even in your personal life.
Yeah. And you lose focus on and energy, the ability to put energy in the things that really matter if you spread yourself too thin. If there's a young listener who's listening right now that really wants to make an impact in the world, and whether that's through business, whether that's just through a creative pursuit, but they just don't know where to get started, and it seems overwhelming to try to actually make a dent in people's kind of perception and values, what would you tell them?
I think you have to define the dent first, right? So, if you just say, I want to make a dent, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. What I've told people is, energy can create an outcome very differently depending on how it's applied. So, for instance, in the analogy that I use for a lot of people is nuclear power can either blow up a city or it can power one. So first you have to say, okay, am I going to make a positive impact on the world, a positive dent? Well, put that out. And that's that's the one that I would recommend, is trying to be a positive impact on the world, and then go to work on figuring out, it's not even necessarily about you, right? It's more what kind of skills were you gifted with, and then what do you have to curate in order to reach where you feel you'll be able to invest the time and energy appropriately to make that dent. So I wanted to be a Green Beret early on, but you had to start planning that years before you do that. And then you have to make it through the training, and then, go to combat and survive combat if you're lucky, right? Luck.
Yeah.
Okay. But I also wanted to work for the CIA. So while I was an SF guy, I was like, man, I'd really love to work for the CIA someday. And then while I was in the CIA, I was like, man, I'd really like to be a coffee roaster someday and have this business. Well, shoot, it was 7 years. I'd roasted coffee in my house and fucked around with espresso machines and done a bunch of random coffee stuff, like gone to coffee festivals and, built an entire catalog of roast profiles. 7 years before I started Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah.
So, and then I had all this experience in management and planning and all these other things that I could apply directly to business. So I'd kind of built this portfolio of skills that I was really interested in. So that's the other piece, is what are you interested in? What can you do for a long life cycle where you're not going to burn out? I can't burn out on coffee. I really can't. It's so intrinsically interesting to me, and every facet of it, whether it's roasting or cupping or growing or, the post-roasting customer experience. Like, there's so many different fascinating things with this thing. It goes like tentacles. It just goes out and keeps going. So you can go as deep as you want into each one of those corridors. I never get bored with it.
Yeah.
And if I do, then I go pick up my bow and shoot my bow for a half hour, and then I'm back in coffee. So I try to not waste my time with stuff that I'm just not interested in, where it doesn't curate a skill that I can see with a mission focus at the end. Hunting is a great analogy with this too, where it's like you have a lot of skills that you have to curate in order to be proficient, in order to go out and harvest an animal. And then you have a post-harvest acquisition sequence where you're putting meat on your table. And then you have the culinary aspects of being able to provide the food to your family and all these great, cool things. I can't get bored with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's like people choose things where they're like, this is going to make me wealthy, or this is what somebody else does, so I'm going to try to apply this to my life and hoping that will make me happy. It's like, stop looking at your neighbor's yard, man. Right? The grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
Try to really be introspective and find out what's super interesting to you that you just don't see an end to where it will take you. And a lot of people, I think they're searching, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking to define success based on what other people have done versus what they've done. I told this to people back in the day. I was like, I would be a Green Beret for nothing. Like, I would do this for free.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care. I'd do it for free. It wasn't a paycheck because you weren't really getting paid to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I would sleep on a cot in the middle of fucking nowhere or on the ground, starve, be frozen, all the things just beat the shit out of me just to be a Green Beret. I had no context to, meaning I didn't know any other Green Berets really. I wanted to be a Green Beret. I wasn't looking at this saying, okay, this is how I'm going to be able to define myself as a success. It's just like, that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I went out and did.